This podcast is brought to you by Podspot Events.
How do you go from working in Sydney's nightclub scene to making hats for Ed Sheeran, Jason Momoa and Teddy Swims? Well, that's the story of Bondi local Dave Robledo, better known as BamBam. In this episode, we talk about Dave's life working in Sydney's nightclubs, how destroying a hat that his ex-girlfriend gave him led to a dramatic career change in hat making, and some of the cool stories about the people that Dave has made hats for. This episode is sponsored by Remoti and Cameron's Tallow Balm, but I'll tell you a bit more about the both of them later. I hope you enjoy this episode, and as always, remember to give us a follow on Instagram at the Bondi Podcast to stay up to date with all of our guests and episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll find all of our episodes on Spotify. Cheers. Dave, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris, for having me, man.
Pleasure. First thing we ask all of our guests, and I only give you like a 2-minute warning on this question.
Yeah.
What is your favourite thing about Bondi?
Mate, 2 minutes to wrap that up. Mate, I think favourite thing, I think it's the community. It really is it might be pretty cliche to say, you know, but there's something pretty special about when you wake up in the morning and you can go down the beach early first thing and see a whole bunch of people that you know, and they sing out, say, "Hey, Dave," or whatever it might be. You know, it's a pretty cool way to start the day.
That's a pretty common answer.
We
get, and I suppose it's something like you definitely associate with Bondi. Why in particular? Why is community important to you?
I mean, it's definitely given me a leg up for me to practice and pursue this little hat making journey of mine that I've sort of fallen into. You know, it's given me incredible opportunities. That there's nothing more powerful than that word of mouth marketing. You know, that someone can sort of introduce you firsthand to somebody else, and I guess, you know, we'll go into the story about how it is, but a lot of the people who I connect with are friends of friends of friends who I've created something for in the past. So it's pretty unique.
Just a quick word from me, guys. We're making some progress, Bondi Podcast listeners. We're up to 450 followers on Spotify and 150 subscribers on YouTube. I would love to get both of those numbers closer to 500 across both platforms. So I've got a quick favour to ask. If you haven't, could you please quickly pause this episode, go and hit the subscribe and follow buttons on both platforms. It really helps with the show and ensures we can keep bringing quality guests and episode to you guys. Cheers. How did you end up in Bondi in the first place, Dave?
Mate, so I grew up in Orange. I'm a country boy, a couple of hours central west. And I finished high school in 2000, and my family, on my dad's side, he's Spanish. So after school, I took off to Spain and lived with my grandparents for a couple of years. And that was a completely different sort of shock to my world, you know, culture shock, and having to learn the language and leaving my friends behind and meeting new friends and all that sort of stuff.
Whereabouts in Spain? In
the north end of Spain, in a place called Asturias, in Gijón. Beautiful place, country, but also coastal. So it's very touristy, and it's very traditional, you know. And so I stayed there for a couple of years, and then I moved back to Orange, and I realised pretty quickly that I've sort of outgrown my stay there. And then I moved to Sydney and was entertaining the idea of becoming a DJ and a sound engineer, because I'd gone to so many shows in in Europe and stuff. So I was kind of like, this is what I'm going to do now.
Could you actually play?
I wasn't too bad. You know, I couldn't play a guitar to save my life. And I had a short stint of singing in a rock band when I was in high school too. So that's there's a video of that floating around too. So it's pretty embarrassing if that ever comes out. But I played around with it for a while, and it was something that I was interested in. But when I moved to Sydney, I had a friend of mine who organised some work for me in a nightclub in Greenwood Hotel in North Sydney. And it was one of the busiest places in town. You know, it was a younger crowd. And I was working late nights there just as a glassy, you know, just picking up glasses and cleaning the shitters and just, you know, all the glory work and stuff. So, and then, you know, nights became later and later and later, and I started missing some of these classes that I had been signed up to. And I just made the decision to sort of pursue the hospitality world, and moved out of North Sydney and came to Bondi, and I've been here ever since. So that was I've been here for almost 15 years.
Wow.
On the East Coast here. Yeah. Maroubra, Bronte, anywhere down on this side here is kind of like where I've landed.
And how have you seen it change over the 15 years?
Oh wow, Bondi's changed a lot. When I first came, I hated Bondi. It wasn't my crowd. It wasn't my scene. I didn't have a lot of friends down here. You know, it was kind of very. It had a particular kind of vibe to it. You know, it was very sort of snooty and kind of like, you know, like we're cool, and I'm not cool. So, and neither were my friends at the time. So we were kind of just sort of poking around, and we lived. The first place we lived at was just 2 doors down here on Campbell Parade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, above Commonwealth Bank. And it wasn't Commonwealth Bank back then. It was, I think it might have been some shitty Ugg boot shop or something like that, which is kind of trending in Bondi. Yeah.
And then, so that's when you sort of started working in nightclubs and bars.
Yeah. So I was at Greenwood Hotel. Then I sort of outstayed my time there, and I got poached to another venue. And then I started working for the Merivale Group and started working at Ivy.
So doing what?
I was a manager at this stage, so I was sort of in charge of teams, and I was working even later nights and sort of more toilets to clean. But it was kind of just where I was landing in at the time. You know, it was kind of like enjoying the fast-paced nature of the hospitality land, and you know, we're working in one of the biggest clubs in Australia, so it was kind of cool.
In the Ivy?
Yeah.
So talk us through like a typical week then, Dave, because I'm a sort of guy who goes to bed early.
Yep.
Gets up early. I imagine working in that sort of nightclub scene, it's like very different.
Yeah, it is. And you know, typical week would be, you know, like the pointy end is obviously the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday part of the week. Late nights, early starts. You know, I remember coming home a few times, and you know, it was Christmas morning, and I was driving down the hill. Sun's coming up, kids are playing with their presents that they've just opened, and I'm just getting home from work. You know, so it's kind of like, all right, this is a decision. You know, I'm really in it. But yeah, late nights, loud music, very high energy. Boozy, yeah. I mean, I was fortunate enough not to really sort of get into that, because I couldn't back it up if I tried, you know. I'd have to turn around in a couple of hours and go back to work and do it all again. So I kind of stayed off that kind of side. But very high paced. You know, there's a lot of scary things happen there. It was kind of
like what?
Oh, it was like, you know, like you're dealing with people at their worst at, you know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Full of drink, full of drugs.
Full of, you know, whatever they want to feel like that's what they want to party with. And, you know, just the nature of the beast when you're working in the nightclub land. There's no, it's not roses.
And you eventually owned somewhere. You took on a bar somewhere.
Yeah, my best buddy and I, he got me involved in a venue over in Newtown. So it was a short-lived little venture. Renovated this old shitty club, and it worked out pretty quickly. It wasn't a very good decision, because we polished it up, and it was supposed to be a shithole.
Was that a nightclub or a bar?
It was a late night trading bar. Right. Yeah, pub. But you know, lesson learned. Got out of it pretty quick. Bounced around to a few other places. Opened up some other ones. Watson's Bay Hotel. Came back to the Merivale Group. It was the licensee at Chinese Laundry.
So what were you doing at Watson's Bay?
I was just a manager there.
All right, okay.
Yeah, venue manager. Yeah, helping it get set up, and just sort of introducing some procedures and systems and stuff like that. But again, I mean, another high-paced, fast, brand new location. You know, there was probably less sleep then.
Jeez, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. What was going on in your life at the time? Then Dave, like personal life, overall health and well-being, I can imagine my perception from the outside looking into that world is it's not very healthy. You're not getting as much exercise as you should. You're probably not getting as much sleep as you should. You might be drinking a little bit more than you should as well.
Yeah.
Have I got it wrong or?
Oh mate, look, everyone chooses their own sort of goosebump story, you know. I think it's possible for people to go through, especially nowadays. You can have the option to be sober or a little bit more healthy. But I was quite fortunate because, I mean, I lived at the beach, so I was any opportunity that I could at the time. I was always surfing. I was always outdoors. You know, I was always getting some sunlight when I could, and I was active, working in these larger venues. So I wasn't like sitting down a lot of the time. I wasn't like a mouse jockey. You know, it was very hands-on, very service orientated. So you had to really sort of interact with people. You know, really sort of diffuse situations and stuff like that. So I mean, my situation varied from venue to venue, but some of those personal skills and the people skills that I picked up, they were some of the things that I've taken on now. That you know, subconsciously you just kind of you know how to handle that, you know. But there's definitely been dark times, I guess, you know. Healthier in the later stages, I guess, because you kind of like, I can't back this up, but yeah, I think it does take a toll on you too when you're dealing with fights and some pretty nasty people out there. And
What was the worst thing you saw?
oh, well, ironically, my very first shift at Ivy was the incident at the basement. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that situation.
For those who might be listening, that
yeah, it was an unfortunate situation that happened with a group of guys that got into an altercation with the security guards at the door, and some people got hurt, and it escalated. Some people went to prison for it and stuff like that. It was pretty. So I was kind of like, "Fuck, is this day one?
Is this the gig?" Yeah, shit.
And they're like, "No, this doesn't happen all the time." I was like, "Well, I'd seen stuff like that before, you know." So I was like, "Oh, this is just, I guess I have to get into this mode."
Yeah.
And
what mode's that?
Just, you know, have your wits about you, you know, eyes in the back of your head every time. Recognize situations before they unfold, you know, just read rooms and stuff like that. It was very, it was kind of baptism of fire.
As the manager, like, of those big venues, then, Dave, did you ever get like called to the front door basically to determine where people get, you know, let in or kicked out?
Yeah. That was kind of my gig.
So were you down at the front door, like, or were you sort of up in the venue and then you get called down?
A lot of the time you're on the comms with everybody, so everybody's in communication with each other, and there's you know, depending if you manage the venue correctly, you know, you're putting the right people in the right locations so they can sort of diffuse it beforehand. But ultimately, the buck sort of ends with you. So you got to you get the call to defuse a bomb. It doesn't matter where you are. You got to come down and come try and sort it out. And I think my guys were kind of like, you know, Dave, you're pretty good at this. Maybe we'll just call you all the times. So I was like, fuck, mate. Just if it's a fake ID, somebody can handle that, surely, right? Read the number.
Yeah.
But again, you know, you're not dealing with the best people at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So everyone sort of has a feeling like they're being discriminated against or, you know, singled out or whatever it may be. But each scenario is different.
And then you're copping a lot of shit from a bunch of drunk folk.
Yeah, and then you kind of just like, man, like, I don't need this.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that probably fucking chips away at you.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the time I didn't really think about it. And I've had conversations with friends afterwards who are kind of still in the game, and they've kind of like, they're like, man, you know, we went through some pretty rough times. Like even just dealing with, even if you weren't in an altercation or something like that, just being out late and dealing with some people yelling at you is kind of like deflating. And I remember vividly having a conversation with someone. It was a girl who had been knocked back at the front door, and I got tunnel vision. Like it just went whoosh, blackness to it, like through a pin, and I could hear what she was saying, but it was like just peppering me with something, And I was like, yep, yeah, gotcha. Unfortunately, and I was having a conversation with her, and then as it kind of went back into reality, whatever I thought it was, it just went back. And that would happen a few more times, and then I got out of the game. And I remember when everybody started talking about anxiety and mental health and all this sort of stuff, and all these signs to look for, and how the experiences people had, and I was like, fuck, I've had that for years.
Really?
I had that for such a long time. I just thought it was normal.
Really?
Yeah. So, looking back, there wasn't places for you to even entertain the idea of saying, hey, I just had tunnel vision. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But, I've done 16 hours back to back. Maybe, can I have a later start or something? It wasn't like that at all. It was kind of like, you're on tomorrow. See you there.
The road is the road.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, fuck.
But, man, I wouldn't change anything. I definitely wouldn't have changed anything. I made some of my best friends of all time, some of the most amazing people who I trust with my life, and again, like I said, the people skills and stuff that you take away from it, it's invaluable.
So how long were you in hospitality for in total, Dave?
Mate, I was since I came to Australia, so altogether it would have been 15 years or so. 15 years.
And that was right up until COVID?
Yeah, so simultaneously through that period, my soon-to-be at the time business partner, he was staying at my place when we were living in Bronte on the lounge, and he's working in another venue, and he was from Vegas, and he was basically sitting around the lounge. We were talking about how hard it was to book in venues with DJs and entertainment and stuff like that. So he owned a record label. I was booking bands and DJs and all that sort of stuff. And we decided on the spot that we were going to try and create a platform that facilitates that communication process for that industry. So over a case of beers and a couple of pizzas, we decided to come up with this idea, and so we needed someone to obviously help build it. Found another business partner who he'd played in bands and toured all over the world, and he was a developer. So we had somebody who's able to help us get this idea off the ground. So we had a pretty very basic sort of a very, very basic sort of landing page for us to get this thing up and off the ground and try and find investors and stuff like that. And I was working in the clubs at the same time too, trying to sort of pay the way for everybody at the time. And we've eventually got investment, and so I quit hospitality, decided to go all in on this software platform. And
so when was this, Dave, sort of timeline?
2012.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Wow.
We started 2012, and it's still operating right now.
Wow.
And I was running bars and doing that simultaneously all the way up until COVID. COVID happened, obviously, and then every bar, every venue, every festival, everything went offline for the music industry. And basically, I'm not a developer, so I had more free time on my hands, and the other guys were really focusing on business and development and trying to make the platform as good as they possibly could.
So how many's in the team at this point in time?
3.
So you've got the developer, then you've got your other business partner. He's working on the business side of things.
Yeah.
You're in sales.
I was front end sales.
There's we've just went into lockdown. There's no one to fucking speak to.
Yeah. Well, the people that
Sell
we were
to.
talking to beforehand, they were kind of like, fuck off. We're kind of happy with the cup and string sort of method. And I was like, well, time will tell, because modern tools are available. And then COVID happened, everything went offline. Sales, the cold call approach was kind of redundant at that point. But the boys were fantastic, and they just got their hands dirty and kept on improving. And we started to see a pickup in people adopting the system.
Even during COVID?
Yeah, so COVID was kind of like a Trojan horse for us, because venues obviously were looking at this situation at the time. It was out of everyone's control. They had to close, but they didn't want to turn everything up, right? So they had to go in and with a red pen and get rid of some of the fat out of their operations. So unfortunately, in some of these venues, the accountant Stacey, who checks off invoices with a red pen, she's kind of first to go, and then they revisited with this software that can sort of automate a lot of their problems and stuff like that. So yeah, so again, it was heavily reliant on just maintaining sort of like doing demos and stuff like that, showing these people through it. But at the time, I still had way more free time on my hands, and that's kind of where I picked up the hat making.
Our newest sponsor, Cameron's Tallow, is changing the natural skincare game. Do you suffer from eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, or acne scarring? Well, Cameron's Tallow Balm could be exactly what you need. Made from Australia's best grass-fed and grass-finished beef tallow, Cameron's Tallow Balm is great for skin nourishment and is perfect for dry and sensitive skin. If you're curious, you can check the guys out on Instagram at Cameron's Tallow and drop them a DM if you have any questions, or go to the website cameronstallow.com to find out more. I'll put all the details in the comment section below. Cheers. Yeah, talk us through that, mate. Yeah. That's fucking... The story you've told up until this point, you've not mentioned the fucking hat. You've not mentioned anything artsy, anything creative. It's just went to Spain, worked in clubs and bars and shit like that, and was in sales for like a software. Yeah. How the fuck did this hat thing come about, mate?
It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild because I'd never made anything before in my life. I can't draw.
Would you say like obviously you're creative now, but would you have said you were like a creative person?
Definitely. If I think back, in retrospect, I've always been creative because if there was an event that needed to take place, I'd come up with these ideas, but I'd have a team around me for me to be able to make it come to life. So I kind of feel as though there was a lot of times where people were like, "What the fuck is he talking about? What are we going to do here?" And I was like, "Trust me, we just have to do this. Let's just try." And some of these events would be monumental, And I kind of feel like I've always had that in me. But as for like craft, art, I was never into fashion. I never even used to wear hats. I always wore caps, but never what I eventually end up sort of making. And how it all came about. So it must have been around 2012, sometime like that. And an old girlfriend had given me a birthday present, and it was a black Akubra hat, wide brim, fucking straight off the shelf. Had a big opal on the side of it, kangaroo leather band. And when she gave it to me, I was like, "Fuck, thanks." It's really beautiful, but I would never wear this.
No, you weren't like an Akubra or a hat guy back then.
I was not. I put it on. And I swiftly took it back off. It wasn't my, and I didn't wear it outside.
Was it the opal on the side?
It was, the little opal was the giveaway. But I just had it parked in the shelf for such a long time. Fast forward a few more years, the girlfriend at my time and I had split up and broken up. So, and I was cleaning out of my shit, and I had this hat sitting on my shelf, and I took this hat, and I decided to cut it. And I burnt it.
Why?
Well,
was it like a fucking revenge thing from the relationship? You were pissed off at her?
No, it wasn't out of spite. Out of spite. But I cut it and I burnt it and I ripped it. I ran over it on my motorbike. Right. I threw it in the ocean, lit up on fire. And I sewed it all back together.
But what were you trying to do?
Well, the reason why I did all that was because, again, I have to reiterate, it wasn't about spite. It wasn't like fuck you kind of thing. It was more so me trying to give this thing some character. Right. And so I found an old needle in a drawer. It's just, one of the needles that you'd get in a hotel room where you just fix a button. And then I sewed it all back together, and I wore it down on the Corso in Bondi, and got all the way down to the grassy knoll, and a stranger came up to me and said, "Mate, I need to stop you and ask you where you got your hat from." And I said, "I made it." And he's like, "What?" And then I told him that whole story about the ex-girlfriend, and I just wanted to add some character to it and give it some scars, some character, some life, And he's like, "Man, fuck, can you make one for me?"
What sort of guy was this?
Just a random person. Yeah, just some random guy. And I was like, "Man, I don't know. I don't know, I guess." So then now this guy's planted this seed in my mind. I'm thinking, why not? You know, like maybe I can create something like this.
And are you still doing the software thing at this time?
Yeah. So the little bit of time had skipped, but I got it back on. I'm back in Bondi at this stage, and I'm having to go onto eBay and I'm trying to find old hats in the color they wanted, in their size, for me to repurpose. And that was challenging because I would have to go on the auction and try and win the bid every single time, you know. And so I just decided to go onto the University of YouTube and sort of go down that rabbit hole of, you know, hat making, whatever that means. And one joined some dots together, an A, B, and C, and got a supplier and ordered in some rabbit felt, which is the only sort of material that I knew at the time. It's the only material that I use now. And just went for it. Yeah, just went for it.
So let's take it back to that first order from that guy.
Yeah.
So you went on YouTube to try and get like a basic hat to start working from.
Yeah.
So what did you get him?
An Akubra hat.
Color?
It was grey.
And then so you ordered that. And do you remember what price you got that for?
Yeah, I think I got it for. It might have been $40 or something like that.
Good for an Akubra.
Yeah. Like an old one, you know. So I'm like, this will do.
And what did you do to it?
I stitched. I just did a little bit of stitching. I think I put a feather on that. Yeah, it was a feather.
Just a feather.
Yeah, just a feather.
But did you get the motorbike out again, or
no? This one didn't have any mezcal poured on it or any fire. It was just kind of very basics, just a little bit of detailing. And I think I charged like $100 or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, I think that's a lot.
And what did he say when
Oh yeah, he's like, whatever, thanks.
Was he into it?
Yeah, loved it. I've never seen it ever again.
No.
I don't know where it is or what happened to it, but it was really it was one of those moments where I was like, when you don't value yourself, you know, you're really like, here you go, sir. Like, I hope you like it. $100, please. It was like, it could have gone any which way in my mind. And he got it, took it, never saw him ever again. But for me afterwards, I was like, okay, I've just proven to myself that there's something here for me to lean onto.
So where did you take it from there?
Well, then another friend would ask me for a hat, and I'd fix up their hats, and
so they would have
old Akubra hats or whatever it might be, and they were just kind of like, "Can you just do your thing to this?" And I was like, "Okay." There's a lot of feathers going out at the time.
And did you charge them?
Friends, I didn't charge.
Okay.
But then I remember when I did actually start to, you know, take this as a full-time sort of. This is a business that I can sort of really sort of take ownership of. And then when I started charging, people were like, "Oh, well, okay, no worries. Well, that's not how much you charged him." And I was like, "Yeah, but now it's starting to be something." So it started to grow, and the detailing, and the more and more I sort of looked at the things that I was doing. I was really interested in doing some. The idea behind the brand that I created was to create unique, one-of-a-kind hats that didn't look like they'd come off the shelf. That have character. I use recycled leather and thread that I find in garbage bins sometimes, and then the embroidery is what I wanted to set aside from everybody else.
Mm. So did it initially spread just from like word of mouth? So you custom designed a few hats for friends, and then just naturally word of mouth. And then there was just an inflection point where you just said, well, shit, there's a business here. I'm going to start charging for this. Yeah, it was. And it happened real quick. Oh. It was that, again, coming back to that, the power of community, especially around here, you know, people would see something and they'd be like, I want that. Where'd you get that from? Or, you know, I'm friends with such and such. Can you make something for me? I want a butterfly. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. No worries, I can do that. Or, you know, a guy said to me, I want a fairy wren. I was like, yeah, I can do that. No worries. He's like, how much? And I was like, I don't know, like
$600. And he's like, okay, yeah, whatever, no worries. And I was like, fuck, all right. Now I have a floor. And then I had to Google what a fairy wren was, and it was a little fucking bird. And I was like, damn, that's gonna take me hours. So, but you know, I got through it. Say yes, handle it, deal with it later. It was kind of like my mentality at the time. And then once more and more detail was sort of getting put into these items, the level of inquiries were just starting to flow quick. Bang, 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 bang. I saw you do that butterfly. I want to do this butterfly. I saw you do that. I want to do a dog. And I was like, okay, now I'm in custom land.
Sure.
So prices started to go up. Time obviously was more valuable, and you know, the queue started growing and growing and growing. And
Mostly local, mostly eastern suburbs, or further afield?
yeah, a lot early on it was here, but now it's global. Yeah, it's global. Yeah, and it's grown. I mean, I've been doing it since COVID. That was the inception. But
That's the point in time where you've left the software business now, Dave?
I left the software platform as far as the daily operation side of things. Still involved, still a founder, still help the guys out with strategy and stuff like that. But I knew at the time, once I was making these accessories for people, this wearable art, the reward that I was getting from these people was so incredible. You know, like some people cry.
Can you sort of describe that feeling, Dave? Like there must have been like you designed the hat for yourself. You designed the hat for that very first guy, and you start designing hats for like your friends as an extension of that. There must have been a point where you get like the warm and fuzzies. You're like, oh fuck, I'm actually really fucking enjoying this, and do you know what? I actually think I'm quite good at this. I'm gonna keep pulling this thread and go down this path.
Yeah, there was
because it's quite like from our conversations, like the work you do, like I imagine it's quite rewarding. I imagine you get like the warm and fuzzies quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's the beauty about what I do is I get to utilize some of those personal people skills that I learned over in the nightclub land. You know, I get to ask people some questions and uncover some of their background and some of their story. And you know, some people come to me with an idea. They say, you know, this is the direction, but I give you full trust and you can just do your thing. Some people have a very specific idea in mind, and it's kind of like, okay, I got to get it as close as I possibly can to that, not to let down anyone's expectations. But again, it's all perspective, right? So this is my interpretation of what you've told me and what I've uncovered. And I would say 99% of the time it's always been bang on. You know, it's exceeded people's expectations. So when you ask me what the reward's like, it is rewarding because I get to do something different every single time. I couldn't replicate it if I tried, and if someone can, come and work for me, because I got plenty to do. But I guess that's the fuel for me, is because I can get into tiger mode, butterfly mode. I just did a night on a horse jousting. You know, like it's never anything that's mundane. And when I said to you before about the people who've been really affected emotionally by what I've made for them, some of these people didn't know what I was creating. They just knew that we'd met. I'd heard their story, sort of uncovered a few bits and pieces, and I unraveled a little bits and pieces. I just took some mental notes, and when I pieced it all together and presented it to them, yeah, it's been pretty powerful.
Incredible, mate.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, fuck, I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm sorry. Just making a hat.
And do you get awkward when they start crying? Or?
Nah, you know, like they're happy tears. It's never like, fuck, you just ruined this thing for me.
Yeah,
it's always, you know, like, thank you. You've gone above and beyond what I could have ever imagined.
Right.
And, some people were never, they were like, I was never into hats. Now I'm never taking this off.
Maybe we do a live example here, mate. I've got this fucking dusty old Akubra that I bought about 3 years ago that I never fucking wear. And I don't know why I don't wear it. But what would, like,
I know.
if I came to you and was like, I want to wear this hat, but I want you to give it a bit. I want you to give it the BamBam treatment.
What I would do is I would take some. I would get a brush and sort of brush that down there, and then I would just throw it over that way, over there, and start from start, and we'll create one fresh for you.
Yeah? So you don't do the Akubra thing anymore?
I tend not to repurpose other brands. Yeah, I make them entirely from scratch, and so my supplier is from Ukraine, and it's 100% rabbit fur, ethically sourced, ethically farmed, and they've been amazing. I should say, not funnily enough, but funnily enough, when I decided to go full time, BamBam, Russia decided to make moves onto Ukraine. I was like, "Fuck, how am I going to get my hats? How am I going to get my felt?" And thankfully, the amazing people over there, they were like, keep ordering. We need to keep working. Keep it coming. So I just I've got a really good connection with those guys over there, and I order in the materials. They come within a few weeks sometimes, and I just make them in my bedroom and the kitchen and get going.
So if I came to you then from fuck the Akubra.
Yeah.
What questions would you ask me to be like to get a sense of what sort of hat you would design for me?
Yeah, well, I mean, I obviously talking to you, I can sort of get the impression that you like to listen a lot. You're a good listener. I think you got great personal skills. I'm not too sure what you do for work, but you seem kind of athletic, and you seem kind of somebody who goes outdoors quite a bit. So I think a little fairy wren would be perfect for you.
I don't even know what the fuck a fairy wren is. Oh, perfect. Yeah.
But, it comes down to what you need it for. Is it a functional hat? Is it going to be like an outdoor farming kind of steez? Is it kind of like is it going to be a statement piece? Is it something that's going to be a one-off wedding piece?
It would be something. So for me, it would be something I want to wear regularly, just fucking around the eastern suburbs.
Yep. Then I think
you can wear it to a bar, you can wear it down the beach.
Yeah. So generally, I'd say the wide brim is more of the statement piece. It's kind of like I'm wearing a hat. Shorter brim, which I tend to rock with, it's a little bit shorter, so the brim's shorter, and it's a little bit more casual. So you can chuck it on, and doesn't seem like it's going to bump into something a lot of the time.
Yeah. Which maybe that's why I don't wear the Akubra, because I think it's a bit too.
Yeah.
That's wide brim in it.
This is what I would probably say it's in the medium brim.
Yeah.
It does get wider.
Yeah.
But this is actually wool. So this material is less superior to this. It's kind of it's too
flimsy. I like flimsy. These are quite firm.
Yeah.
These bad boys, and they hold their shape like really well.
Yeah. So it's all about wool. There's nothing wrong with wool. I mean, it's functional too. Like obviously it keeps the sun off you. That's the main part of it. But it's fur. So the denser it is, the more stable, I guess you can say. The more rigid it holds its shape.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
When did you notice like the BamBam Instagram account like start to get a bit of a following? Because you got like a good few thousand followers on there now, right?
Yeah, mate, it's funny. I didn't really notice it, to be honest. Like it's been a real grind. I think I caught the Instagram wave at the end of when, like a fucking foodie, review girl can sort of jump on and just sort of get 250,000 followers, and it's kind of like, fuck, how the fuck did they do that? Mine's been a slow burn, slow. But I do all the content myself, so I do all the filming, all the recording, which I had no idea about as well. It was kind of just cowboying at the time. Just set up a tripod and a camera and set up my phone and sort of capture moments in there and stuff. And then I realized, because I didn't want to be the face of it, I didn't want to be known as BamBam. And BamBam was a nickname that my old housemate gave me. I think it was because I was loud, and I didn't know what to call this thing, so I just called it BamBam. So I started putting up the posters and pictures and stuff all that on social media, and it was all just Instagram. It was a slow burn. But then it started picking up a little bit more when I started doing the behind the scenes, how things are made, showing up close, the materials that I'm using, like showing my hands, and it's showing that it's handcrafted, and it's in my kitchen with a $30 kettle that I use, and, trying to translate how much it stinks when I light them up on fire and stuff. Like, people were like, fuck, that's cool. It's different, unique,
So rather than you just posting a picture of a fucking hat, you noticed the following tick up when you started doing the behind the scenes, up close and personal, things they don't say. That's interesting.
Yeah, and the landscape changes so rapidly too on social media. You go through a period there where people are like, that's amazing, and it'll catch fire. Then it'll drop off and there'll be something else. Then there'll be like a 6-second thing and a 3-second thing, then a thing, and it's kind of like trending music behind it.
Oh yeah, you're trying to fucking play the algorithm game. And it's a fucking nightmare.
So I kind of just, when that happens, I kind of just sit back, still capture content, and sort of piece it together with some meaning. But man, I don't know. It's funny. You get a bunch of followers, then you lose a bunch of followers, and you get them all back, and it's kind of it's
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, mate. We can edit this next question out.
Yeah.
If you don't want it to go in the episode.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
You've received a couple of weird Instagram messages since you started the account, mate.
Yeah.
No comment, or do you want to shed a bit of light?
Nothing that's
You've got an interesting fan following.
I've got some people who send some pretty funky stuff. Yeah, and nothing I'm like, fuck, whoa. But like, I'm just like, that's interesting. Because it's still a business account, So I got to be mindful of how to respond to some of these things. But
am I right in saying it's the older generation that are?
There's some older, like, funnily enough, I've got like older embroidery fans, like older ladies.
And they like what they see when they look
like,
at BamBam, yeah.
They're like, hey. I don't know. Yeah, it's all fun. It's all fun. It's nothing that I need to. It's nothing.
It's better than anything we get on the Bondi podcast. Fucking DMs, mate. So
yeah.
Good on you, and God bless those older embroidery ladies. Are you trying to grow your business or brand, but often find there aren't enough hours in the week? Have you considered hiring a virtual assistant to help with all those tasks that you don't want to do that could easily be delegated? I'm talking about admin, accounting, digital marketing, social media, and much, much more. Well, our show sponsors Remote provide businesses, entrepreneurs, and social media influencers with the top virtual assistant talent in the Philippines. If you're curious but still sitting on the fence, why not use the referral code Bondi to trial a virtual assistant for 2 weeks for absolutely free. That's 2 weeks, absolutely free. All you have to do is go to the website www.remote.com.au/contact, enter your details, enter the referral code Bondi, and someone from Remote will be in touch. I've added the link to the Remote website in the Instagram bio, and there's also a link in the show notes. And if you're interested in sponsoring the podcast, please get in touch with us over Instagram. Cheers. Look, mate, more recently, you made a hat for Teddy Swims when he was in Australia.
I did.
Talk me through that. How did that come about?
Oh, man. Okay, so I have to admit, I had no idea who Teddy Swims was before I even met him.
He's huge.
Yeah.
He's huge. It's a big deal.
He, it was, so my girlfriend, she's a jeweler. She, here in Bondi as well, she does all the handmade silver engraved, hand engraved stuff, beautiful stuff. She was contacted by his team last year saying, hey, this guy Teddy Swims is in town. Would you like to put something together for him? And she was like, I don't know if fucking Teddy Swims is either. Yeah, sure, I'll do something. And she made them. He loved them, wore them. And I was at home one time. I think I was in the middle of, I think I was stitching a dog or something in the lounge. You know, I was just kind of like, and I saw that he was in town. So I messaged her and said, hey, he's in town. You should do another collection, see if he's interested. They got back to him. Bang. She sent him some more rings. He loved them. Wore him up on stage that night. My friend was in the crowd for that show and saw that he was wearing some other hat on stage and messaged me during the show, sending me a photo saying, I've got a contact who can piece something together if you want to get a hat on Teddy, but you have to turn it around in 24 hours. And I was like, mate, anything is possible. I was like, who? Who for? So I was like, okay, fuck, I can really sort of, if this is real, then I'm gonna make this happen. And I'd done it before. Like I made a hat for Ed Sheeran in less than 24 hours.
Fuck off.
He was in town, did a show. Again, it was a friend. I can make it happen if you can make it happen. And I said, I can make it happen. Made it, sent it to him, got it. So this one was a little bit more detailed. It was a wider brim, black. I did a mountainscape on the side of it. It was kind of like, and I got a Australian bird, like a king parrot feather, jammed it on the side. It turned out really rad. Called up, my buddy said, I've got this thing. He goes, oh mate, my friend the connection's fallen out. I don't know if this is going to happen. Let me make another phone call. I'm like, okay, no worries. At least now I've got this sick hat that's just sitting there, right? And my girlfriend's made some rings for him. It's on the radar. I get a phone call from his label. It's late in the afternoon. I think it's around about 6:30. Can you meet me here at 7? You're going to walk in and meet him and give the hat to him in person. And I was like, please don't be out at Kudos. I don't want to travel to fucking Kudos to go out there. And it was at the Horden. So
oh, beautiful.
So Tash and I got in the Uber, screamed down there, waiting at the front door. Some guy recognized me. I was the only guy holding a box. Yeah. He's like, BamBam? I'm like, yeah. Went in there, literally skipped the line. Security guard's like, yep, cool, no worries. I was like, yeah, I'm Teddy's hat maker, fucking whatever. And go straight inside. And he had a whole bunch of other people there who were meeting him for the first time also. And then he kind of like, oh, hey. And then he recognized Tash from the rings and who's this guy who'd given me a hat. And then he was just zoned in on us. He was like, these amazing creative people have made gifts for me. So he was awesome, man. He was one of the coolest people that I've met, who's like on the peak of stardom. So much time for us.
What did you chat about?
We spoke about like some shit tattoo that he got on his face that day. You know, it was kind of, he got a little teddy bear on his face and was like, mate, that's
Did he go Bondi Ink to get it? Or?
No, I don't know where he got it done. I think it was somewhere else, but it was really cool. But I was like, man, on your face, you know? But then I looked at his face. He's got all these other tattoos on his face. I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes it look good. We spoke about that, what he's been doing, his shows. I mean, he's wearing an NRL footy jersey on, so it was kind of like telling me what he's been doing that day. And as we're talking, his team are kind of like, okay, wrap it up, get the fuck out, you know. We're like, okay, our 5 minutes are done. And then we went in and watched the show, and it was...
Sorry, the hat, did he stick it on right away?
Yeah, he didn't take it off. He
wore it on stage that night?
He wore it on stage, yeah. Shit. Yeah. And...
how'd that make you feel?
Oh, mate, he played another show the night. He played a show after that, and I think that was in Melbourne. So the night that we saw him, he didn't wear it on stage. The next show he played in Melbourne, he wore it on stage. And I was just like, I woke up and I was just curious to see if he was wearing it or whatever. And I was like, damn, there's some fucking high-res photos of him up on stage rocking this thing. And he's got a whole team of people who document all of his shows and stuff. So it was really, really cool photos. And it didn't seem real. You know, it was kind of like, man, I made that in 24 hours. Like it was pretty rad. Yeah, it was pretty rad.
And he wore it again at Lollapalooza with the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah, he loved it, man. He loved it. And that's a really cool, that's a really cool. It's some honest feedback right there. If they get given shit all the time, I can imagine. They're just kind of like, oh, cool, thanks. I'll put that over here.
In the pile,
like I did for my birthday present. Like, oh, thanks. But for him to wear it on Lollapalooza and have more people see this thing up on the big screen and stuff like that, and really, really see the detail and all that, the X coming through it and stuff like that is really, it's really sick.
That's great, man. Let's talk about the X.
Yep.
While you mentioned it, so you cut like an X into like the brim of the hat. Like, why? What's the thinking behind that, or how did that even come about?
So basically, because I just cowboy everything, basically, it was I cut it into a hat that I had of my own, and I was wearing it at the beach, and the sun was casting a shadow through it, and it was sort of moving around as I'd move. And someone who I was at the beach with was like, what's that? What's going on? And I saw it and I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, oh yeah, I just cut X's into the side of my hat. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's a cool talking point. And I didn't really have a story behind it at all. But it kind of played into the story of the ex-girlfriend who'd given me that sort of thing is kind of what I say. But it wasn't anything to do with that at all. It was kind of like a feature that I just cut into it. But since then, it's kind of evolved into more of I think it's more of like I was at a crossroads in my life, and I was kind of like, I've tried something that I wasn't in, that I had no business being in, So yeah, it's just kind of like a reminder, and it's become a feature that people love and recognizable everywhere, Yeah.
It can have loads of meanings.
Yeah,
so we'll just go for that.
Just depends who I tell. The coolest story at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So Teddy Swims, Ed Sheeran.
Yep.
Any other big names?
I made a really cool hat for Lainey Wilson when she was in town.
So I don't know who's Lainey.
She's a really big country and western singer.
Right.
I got contacted by her label, and they were saying, she's touring. Is it possible for you to make a hat for her as a gift? And I was like, yeah, no worries. Put it together. I did this really cool galah on the side of it.
So who else?
I made hats for Guy Sebastian. That was a cool one. His team again reached out. They wanted a hat. That was a funny story. They were like, I was making one for his manager, and she goes, "Oh, you know what? Guy would love this." And I was at the beach at the time on the phone to speaking to her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Guy would love this." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And she's like, "Oh, I'll send the stylist around to your place and design it." And I was like, "Whatever." Some guy comes around, the stylist comes around, knocks on the door, and he's like, "Oh, this would be great. We do this, blah, blah." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." And then he's like, "Oh, Guy's gonna love this. He's recording something soon." And I'm like, "Fucking some guy." I was some guy, but it was Guy Sebastian, so
Yeah.
I didn't piece it together at the time. I was like, "Fuck, I'm an idiot." And I did a really beautiful feather on the side of that one for him. It was this like emerald green hat, and he wore it while he was recording his album, and you could see it a mile away. It was pretty cool. I made 3 hats for Jason Momoa.
Really?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did you get to meet him?
I haven't met him in person.
Oh,
His stunt double is a friend of mine.
he must be a big lad as well.
Yeah, big guy. Looks exactly like him. Big beard.
So was it your friend actually was the hookup there?
Yeah, he was like, "Mate, I can make it happen for you." It was over months and months and months of sort of negotiating how it even can take place, because that guy travels around so often, and I was like, "Where am I going to send it?" and all that sort of stuff. What does he want? And he wears pink all the time, so I was like, "Okay, I'll find something that's unique." So I found this really cool, dusty pink kind of rabbit fur felt that I had, and did this really epic abstract art piece on the side of it, and sent it to them, and I got a photo back of him wearing it, and then he said, "Oh, mate, can you make me another one?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no worries." Another pink one, more abstract. It's like, "Okay, no worries." Did that. Got a photo of him back wearing that one too, and then he said, "I want a different shape. He wants like a big round shape." It's like, "Mate, you going to buy these, mate, or send the invoice afterwards or something?
So he's not paid. Momoa's not paid for any of
Yeah,
that.
look, that was early on too. They were gifts. I was happy to make them for him because
Yeah.
I was in that space. It was kind of cool. It was really cool to have.
And if you can put them all over your Instagram, mate,
Yeah.
that's fucking...
Yeah, and then sent him, got it to him, and he was wearing it, and I was like, mate, you don't understand how many rabbits I've had to kill to make that hat for you. I had to cull all of them in Australia to make that big pink hat of yours. He's like, fuck you, bro.
Fuck. You need to fucking meet him next time he comes.
Yeah. And he was in town too. Like, he was in town, was kind of... They fly in and fly out, those guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's... I don't know. It's funny. Like, I just... Those... The celebrity kind of things doesn't move the needle for me. The Teddy Swims did. The Lainey Wilson one was cool, but honestly, the most rewarding ones are the ones who are like, who I get to meet in person, sit down, hear their story, and piece it together with them. That's the special ones. Yeah.
Beautiful, mate.
Yeah.
What's next? Where to from here?
Mate, well, today I literally just launched the Syndey collaboration that I did with a big denim brand. We've been working on that for months, and they launched it just literally today. I think that was a really cool. They designed a Western themed capsule denim, and they wanted me to complement the range with some hats that I made. So pieced together 24 hats for those guys, all cowboy themed. And no, I never want to see another cowboy hat in my life, but it was fun. It was cool. Lessons learned. But what's next for me would be more of those sort of crossovers with other exciting brands. TV show coming up in the works.
So give us a bit about that.
It's in the early stages at this stage, but I've made quite a few hats for some chefs in the world, so I'm trying to cross over that landscape together with the art, fashion, and food. That's all I can really sort of say at this stage. Cool. But it's exciting stuff. It's really cool. Kind of more in front of the camera kind of stuff. And then just get through summertime's coming up. Deal with the influx of orders coming through for Christmas and all that sort of stuff, and just sort of piece through the queue that I've got at the moment, and just keep it moving.
Love it, mate.
Yeah.
Look, final question from me this evening. Dave, what words of advice would you give to someone who's thinking about taking that step into a world that they initially believe that they don't have any business being in?
I would say everyone has creativity inside them. Everyone has something. It might be painting, it might be ceramics, it might be just something that you're interested in. Everyone has it inside of them. I would say to them, once you start hearing that calling, really lean into it. Regardless of how stupid and outrageous it might seem to you at the time, there's something that you're supposed to do, and I think that you just have to really, really listen out for that calling, and when it's there, grab it and just take the opportunity. Yeah.
Beautiful place to leave it, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in for a chat. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Mate.
Thank you so much for
Cheers,
having
bro.
me, man. Thank you so much.